Next up, man, we're gonna talk about Bronny James. Um, so Bronny James was trending. Bronny James went viral on social media because he took pictures. His senior prom is here. I don't know whether he's 17 or 18, but his senior prom has arrived. He is going to the senior prom, and in his photos of the senior prom, his prom date is a young white female, a young white woman, a white girl. And predictably, people lost their minds. People lost their minds, and so we thought we would talk about the way that people lost their minds when it comes to this 17-year-old boy. Now, first up, I'm not, we all know how this goes. Black man decides to date a non-black woman or date outside his race, or this is, and we don't even know if these two are dating. We just know that was his prom date, so we don't even know the nature of their relationship. But he took a white girl to the prom, a white woman to the prom, and people lost it. Well, let me take that back. Black people lost it. Black people lost it. Robert Griffin III is he isn't a current quarterback, but I don't think he's officially retired. I think he still keeps himself in shape and tries to see if he can work for. At this point, he'd be a backup, but I don't think he's a retired player officially yet. He works for ESPN right now. He's a media guy. But I'm also fairly certain that during the offseason he trains because he still wants to try and be in the league. But be that as it may, he's someone who has incurred the wrath of people because of his choices and who he chooses to date. He was previously married to a white woman. I believe that ended in a divorce, and then he married another white female. So he's accustomed to this. He's used to getting criticized for his relationship choices and choosing to exercise his options. And he responded to the situation with Bronny James and the way that people are reacting to this girl that he chose to go to prom with. So I figure we'll play his reaction. Is not very long. We'll play it real quick, and then we'll talk about just this whole situation in general.
Bronny James upset a lot of miserable people tonight because he decided to take a white girl to prom as his date. First of all, it's 2022. What's wrong with that? He can take an avatar to prom for all I care. Who he chooses is who he chooses. And secondly, it's giving weird energy that a bunch of grown men and women, 40-year-old men and women, are trying to tell a 17-year-old who they think he should bring to prom. This ain't got nothing to do with LeBron and Savannah not raising Bronny right, and the color of the skin of the girl that he takes to prom should not matter. Leave these kids alone.
All right, so that was RG3. That was what he had to say in reference to that. And the initial. Let me see if I can show this real quick. There was the initial tweet was posted by Ball is Life, and so obviously the comments on the tweet went crazy. So this is just an example of a few of them. You got one person who said OFC is like short text lingo for of course. So this one says, of course he went with a cracker. This one here says, this nigga got the perfect black family formula. What the fuck is happening? You got a couple people here. Why am I not surprised? Let's see here. He loves them snow bunnies. He's one of us. So, Dr. Umar somewhere having a stroke right now. That's funny. So, people lost their minds with this stuff. And I mean, I can go on and on in this thread. You got people who are defending him, but you have more people who are kind of castigating blame, I guess, or just kind of speaking to their level of disapproval over Bronny James's decision to date this non-black girl. This is one of the situations that personally I find increasingly frustrating. Um, I think that it's I almost said unfair, but I had to stop myself because I don't believe in fairness. I've said many times I don't believe there's a such thing as fair. So I'm not going to say it's unfair. However, I do think it's unfortunate that other race. I think it's unfortunate that other races of people, men in particular, can exercise their options, but black men who choose to do it are a problem. And it's ironic that that criticism comes from within and it's not external. So you'll never see, well, at least not outwardly. You probably do have people from other groups who feel some type of way about, I would imagine there are probably a lot of white people who feel some type of way if a white girl, especially if they're related to them or if they have a relationship with her, is dating a black guy. But the outward criticism of it comes primarily from black people. And so just outwardly from a social standpoint, I find it unfortunate that black men seem to be the only group of people who are penalized for exercising their options. I don't know that I see this happening. It might not happen as often, but when it does happen, I don't see the same kind of criticism. Like Serena Williams dates white men. I don't see her being criticized for that. Halle Berry as well has a long history of dating non-black men. Didn't really see her getting criticized for that either. And I'm not saying that either or is okay or right. I'm just saying that it should be two sides of the same coin. And I find it unfortunate that black people get the majority of the flack for exercising all their options. I also think, and this is just kind of me starting off because I can obviously go on and on about this. But I also kind of feel like, people are bringing up the fact that he's 17 or 18. To me, in my opinion, that's irrelevant. I don't care whether the person in question is 17 or 18. And I also don't care whether they're 30 or 40. Who a person chooses to be with is who they choose to be with. Why do you care? If you're so intent if you're so intent on the idea or the notion that black people owe it to themselves to date and marry within race, then you need to make sure that you do your part to uphold your end of the bargain in that regard and stop worrying about the next person. Like, why do you care what another person chooses to do with their own personal life and their situation? Like, we have to get out of dick policing each other and marry and relationship policing each other. Like, it's counterproductive, in my opinion. I find it to be counterproductive, and furthermore, like, this goes back to the central idea, specifically for men, that it is a black man's obligation to do their part to uplift black people by dating and procreating with black women. And so I'm not going to tell a person who believes that they're wrong for believing that. I'm just going to say that I fundamentally disagree with that idea. Maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago, that made more sense. I think today that makes less sense, especially when you're dealing with such a severe stratification of socioeconomic status with respect to the people who we usually criticize for making these decisions. So I think today in 2022, I fundamentally just disagree with the idea that there's this obligation in that way. But I'll just kind of leave it at there for now. Obligation to me is a strong word. You start throwing in words like obligation and deserve, like, it just kind of rubs me the wrong way when you use words like that. Like that's strong terminology to me, to tell another person that they are obligated to do something, especially when it comes to their personal life and their personal decisions. But people like Dr. Umar Johnson, who will swear up and down that it is your obligation to do that. And all I can say is I fundamentally disagree. But that was just initially how I felt about that.
Strong points taken there. I hear all of that. So my my personal initial reaction was, oh, all right, yeah. So it was kind of like I was a little surprised, but then I wasn't. I was a little surprised because how LeBron B, he's as pro black as you can be as a superstar in the NBA. So he it was a little surprise there, but then it wasn't because hey, look, man, I don't know what the stats are if I had them in front of me. All right, but the eyeball test tells me that most athletes have white women. So what's the correlation between that? I don't know, but it's very obvious. It's always there. And like even the new breeds of a lot of the new breeds of kids that are in the league right now, it's like mixed kids and stuff like that. And I don't have a problem with that. It's like, oh, my dad played in the league. Oh, and look at the mom, and the mom is it's a white woman. I'm not mad. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it's what it is. So if there's a guy that's going to the league or league bound and he's pulling up with a white girl, I'm not shocked. I'm more shocked when the girl's black. I am. It was one time I was like, oh yeah, LeBron is still. I forgot when this was, but I was like, oh yeah, LeBron's still with that girl. Yeah, she is black. Oh yeah. It is what it is. I don't know what it could be. It's because the money and the white women treat them better. I don't know what the hell it is. They still get divorced. They still have their still goofy situations too. It's nothing perfect about what they're doing. So I don't know what it is. I guess it's a preference, but to me, football, basketball players, if they're black, they're pulling up with a white girl, and it is what it is. And I don't know if it's a status thing within that community there too. I get it that it's preference, but all of them doing it, like, what's the ratio and why? And so I get it that they're different races of women are more cooperative and all these other things and blah blah blah. So I'm not judging nobody off of their preference, but it is just one of those things of, oh, all right, Lamborghini white girl, chain white girl, and so it is what it is. So Bronny pulling up with white girl is not a shock. I mean, initially I was like, oh, okay, well then, D Wade son pulling up with I don't know what he's pulling up with. Not the older one, but the younger one. Who knows what he's pulling up with? So hey man, at least Bronny's pulling up with something look nice, and I'm sure I hope he had a good prom night and balled out his kind of way. But personally, I don't care.
Right.
And so I don't. And so the reason I don't care is because, well, he made that decision. It's kind of like how I feel about homosexuality now. I don't care. That's your business. That's what you decide to do, and I don't care what you do anymore. If there's two people on TV kissing and they're from the same gender, before I used to now it's like I don't care.
I don't care. Right.
Did I get Stockholm into this? Yeah, but check me out. The reason why I had to eventually go I don't care is because they're trying to make me care. They want me to care about stuff that I shouldn't care about. And so to speak on earlier that we was talking about what rhetoric and certain types of mentalities or whatever, one of the rhetorics is we have to care who they sleep with. Yeah. And one of the rhetorics, black people, yeah, you have to care about who they're sleeping. I don't the kids come out black anyway. So what are you mad about? The kids come out black, or no, they come out black. So if you're so pro-black that you don't want to see a white black person or interracial relationship because you're so pro-black, the kids coming out black, and so black enough to be called the N-word once they get older. So what do you care? So just let people be who they be. And then another thing, and I'll go back to you. It was a dude that I knew when I was working at Walmart, and he was mixed. And me, I'm so pro blah 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 black blah blah blah. And then he was like, "All right, well, what about my mom?" I was like, "What about her? My mom's white. What about her?" And I was like, well, your mom's cool, man. It's like, nah, you can't really do that.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're talking all that crazy stuff, you're talking about my mom. And that was the first time I was around somebody that put it to me in a sense of, hey, man, this guy couldn't help that he was mixed or whatever. And he came up in the house and the cultures that he came up in, and that his mom is who she is. I know how I love my mom. And I'd be damned if somebody talked reckless about my mom like that or about my people like that or whatever. And then so at that point, I realized, I was like, hey, man, I need to take this down to a more, humanistic level. And because I was basically dehumanizing people because I didn't know them personally and I didn't know what they had going on in their house or whatever. So at that point, who cares about what they got going on? But at that point, that conversation let me know that, hey, man, there's everyday cool people out here, and not everything is black and white, like that. That, hey, man, there's good people in all shapes, sizes, and whatever, and race and color and what have you. So I'm not the dude anymore to be around here, oh yeah, black for black, white for white, whatever. I mean, you'll be barking up that tree forever and you're never going to win. So you might as well give it up anyway. But then on the back end, like I said, it's just one of those things where I was just like, hey, man, let them do them. Let them have the life that they want to live. I have certain things, we'll probably talk about it later, that I feel like gets in the way of interracial relationships. But if y'all happy, be happy. The kids you have, if they're beautiful and y'all love them, swag, awesome. I have no issue with none of that. So yeah, man, people, they're caught up in what we talked about in the last segment of racism, sexism. Racism, it's either one or the other. And so now Bronny's a racist to his own people. Now Bronny doesn't love his own people. Now Bronny is this, he's a scumbag, he's this and that. And why is it? Because of extremist rhetoric being taught in the media. So that's what I have to say. A lot there, but it's
Yeah. There's definitely a lot to unpack. So, like, people, why do people react so strongly to certain things? Usually, it's because it's fear based. So, like, we as humans, we react strongly and we get outraged at things because we inherently fear them. And we fear it because we don't understand it. And so lack of understanding breeds fear. So people, well, let me take that back. A lot of black people are afraid of the prospect of interracial relationships, I guess because the fear is that black culture and black people, like just black culture and like the black way of life and all of that kind of stuff, the more that there are interracial relationships, the more that you will have that eroding to the point in which it's no longer in existence, right? Like, I think that's the primary part of the fear is
Right.
The less black people that you have being with black people, raising all black families, and less of that going on, the less that you have more black families becoming financially free and wealthy. There's this idea that the black way of life will just continue to erode to the point at which it doesn't exist. And so to address that particular point of it, the question that I have is, okay, well, let's talk about this. Is this really happening in mass? Like, is this happening in mass? Think about it. The only time that we have these conversations is when we're talking about a pro athlete or some entertainer, right? That's most of the time when we're having these conversations, that's what we're talking about. Like, these individuals are 1% of the population of black people. So the point is, once you have self-actualized and reached the pinnacle of any particular area of industry or discipline, and you've become like wealthy, like you've become rich and generationally wealthy, if you've gotten to that high of an esteem as a black person, that is when those options become available to you. So really what we're talking about is like 1% of the population that has those options available to them. It's not what's happening in mass. In mass, black men are still dating, marrying, procreating with black women and vice versa. That's what's happening in mass. So in mass, I don't necessarily know that it's as much of an epidemic as people would proclaim it to be. But you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of the whole NIL thing. Like this, it's amazing how analogous to life sports is. Like this really reminds me of the NIL thing. So right now, the whole controversy with the with the name, image, and likeness thing in college sports is it's the reaction that people like Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney have towards it is fear-based. It's this idea that we don't know what college sports is going to look like because we've never experienced this before. And so because we have this fear, we have a natural rejection to it. We don't like it. We want it to be the old-fashioned way where we had all the control and kids didn't have the opportunity to make deals and get paid so that we can just go out and recruit and make them play for us based off of the namesake of the school. But that's not what's happening anymore. Now these student athletes have the opportunity to exercise more free will and choose where they want to go. And there's pushback to it because these coaches don't like it. But the thing about it is, what people are failing to realize is that reaction that we are having to NIL is a reaction that we are having to the top 1% of college athletes in football and basketball. And it doesn't apply to how it affects every other student athlete, because every other student athlete can benefit off NIL, but we're not worried about them. We're just worried about the top 1% because it's easy for us to gravitate towards the stark minority so that we can say this is a problem that's going to plague the rest of the world. When in reality, it's not realistic to attach a problem that you think is a real problem to such a small population or to such a small sample size. Mm-hmm. So like for the most part, black men who have the option to successfully date outside of their race is representative of the smallest percentage of our population. 1%, 2% of us. The guys who are pro athletes, entertainers, who have made it in business, who have self-actualized, who become rich, generationally wealthy, so on and so forth. That's the small percentage of men who retain that option, who retain the ability to be able to do that, who maintain that kind of dating flexibility. Most of us out here do not have that same flexibility. We're out here still in mass, dating and marrying and procreating within. So is it really that big of a problem? I think that this is like, it's a lot of hoopla and hysteria over something that's not as big a problem if you believe it to be a problem, which I personally don't. But if you believe it to be a problem, you're becoming hysterical over something that is not actually what is happening in mass, in society, in the culture, in the population. Trust and believe. I'm out here, I see it every day. White women, Latino women, hell, Asian women, Middle Eastern women, they're dating white men, they're dating Latino men, they're dating white Hispanic men, they're dating Arabic men, they're dating other Asian men before they're dating black men. That is what is happening in real life. So I hate to break the news to everybody who thinks that there's just this mass of black men dating out. That's not really what's going on. These other races of women still have a preference where along their ladder of preference, black men is probably last on the ladder. And every other type of man, or maybe they're second to last. And there's several other layers of the types of men that they will date before they even get to black men. But when they will start to consider black men is, when they've reached the 0.1%, which within the black population is like 1%. So if we want to cry, bitch, and moan about 1% of the population, you can go ahead and waste your energy on that. But the reality is, getting hysterical over something that only applies to the smallest percentage of the population really is doing you no good. In mass, that's not actually what's happening. Yeah, Bronny James is going to maybe date non-black women, but he goes to a school where the tuition to go to that school is $40,000 a year. Do you think he's around a lot of black women? I'm going to say no, probably not. And like, what frustrates me about this is people don't look at this stuff logically. They just get emotional. So we're not looking at it from a logistical standpoint. People, by and large, date and marry based upon their socioeconomic situation. So when you're in an environment where you go to certain schools and you're in certain social circles and you're hanging around certain people and doing certain things in which it is predicated that you're going to be around largely non-black people, because now we're getting to the socioeconomics of it. In those types of demographic situations, black people are not going to be physically present because black people most disproportionately comprise low socioeconomic situations. So a person like Bronny, who is in a high socioeconomic context, is going to date within his socioeconomic situation. So unless you want LeBron to put him in the car and drive him to Compton and drive him to Watts and take him to lower socioeconomic areas so that he can maybe get with a black girl in those neighborhoods, the likelihood of him dating outside of his race is going to be quite high. But again, I contend it's not as big an issue as you think it is, because you're talking about the top 1%, not what's actually happening in mass. So like when you take into account all the parameters of this dynamic, including the socioeconomics of it, it bears fruit that it doesn't really make sense for you to criticize people in that situation. I mean, I'm not going to tell you not to do it. It's a free country. Do whatever the hell you want. But like, honestly, if you look at it from a logical standpoint, I don't know what you expect. And so what people like Umar Johnson and what other people who bitch about this situation want Bronny to do, and what they want LeBron to do, and what they want LeBron's wife, what is her name, Savannah, what they want them to do is they want to say, hey, we're in this rich area, we've made it, we're wealthy, you're around a bunch of people who don't really look like you, you go to school with a bunch of kids who don't look like you, $40,000 a year in tuition for a high school. Some four-year university's tuition doesn't even cost that much, for including grad school. And this is his high school. He's pulling up to his prom in what was that? A Mercedes AMG, some kind of limited edition. What world do you think? His world is not your world, people. Like, his world is not your world. And so it's easy for you to criticize him, just like it's easy for you to criticize Cam Newton for saying what he said. It's easy for you to criticize these people because you will never walk a day in their shoes. You can't empathize in any kind of way. So you can criticize them for their personal decisions when you are in a situation based upon your socioeconomic situation, which dictates those are the choices that you'll make. But you know what they want this kid's parents to do is put him in a car, drive him to the hood, drive him to Roundaway, drive him to wherever they want to drive him to, stop, Watts, Compton, wherever else, because then you'll be around plenty black girls. So I guess it's their responsibility as his parents to take him in those environments so that he can exclusively date black girls. Because I find it hard to believe that there are a fair amount of black people, let alone black females, that are in his immediate cipher on a regular basis. But no one wants to look at the economics of it. No one wants to look at the socioeconomics of it. We just want to get emotional and hysterical and talk about how he's failed, how he's supposed to be not going to prom with a white female. And we like to make these diametric oppositions and make it just about black versus white. Like, there's a lot of layers in between. Maybe she ain't white. She could be an Asian girl or a Hispanic girl, Latino, whatever. It doesn't even matter. It's just, if she's not black, there must be some problem with it. When if you actually sit down and think about the measurables of it, I feel like it kind of doesn't even make sense for you to think something different would happen. But that's what we do. We don't look at things logically. We don't think about the logistics of it. We just get all up in arms and hysterical. And we say, this ain't right. We want to blame this kid because he took this girl to the prom. And we want to blame LeBron or blame both his parents, LeBron and Savannah, because it's supposed to be their responsibility to ensure that despite the type of environment and the type of life and reality that he lives, that it's still incumbent upon him to take a black girl to his prom, I guess. I don't know. But these situations are just more and more exhausting. I find it frustrating. It is what it is. Nowadays people date just as much based upon socioeconomic commonality as they do in other intrinsic qualities like race and culture and all of those things. The reason why you see pro athletes and entertainers dating outside of their race is because they are in a higher socioeconomic existence, and they are around other people who can relate to that existence because they themselves are in that same existence. It just so happens that you ain't gonna find very many black people, let alone black females, in that existence because statistically speaking, we don't comprise that tax bracket. We just don't. So practically speaking, it's going to happen less often than you want it to happen. So I think the question, if this frustrates you, that you need to be asking is the deeper, more existential question: why aren't there more black people at Bronny? Why aren't there more black girls at Bronny James's high school? Why aren't there more black girls in Bronny James's neighborhood? Why aren't there more black girls at the Staples Center whenever Bronny James goes to a Laker game? Ask those questions. All the other questions are just, dumb.
Yeah, I feel that, and I would just say that he is Bronny James. So, I mean, his dad DM women all the time. If I was 17, 18-year-old boy and my name was Bron and my dad's LeBron and I got highlights on YouTube, I just got to DM a girl. She could be from Watts, but she's down the street. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm Bronny James. So I don't need to hit the shot at my school. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. But I get what you're saying as far as socioeconomic. That's an angle I haven't considered before. But I see these cats armed up from high school with these girls. They're the cheerleaders. They go to school with black girls and Hispanic girls or whatever, and they pick the white girl.
So yes, I think for people like me and you, that's true. I don't know that that's true for people like Bronny. I would have to really dig into the demographics of his school, and I know that there's other factors besides school, but we're specifically talking about school.
Yeah,
but I can only imagine what the demographics of Bronny James's school is. A $40,000 a year tuition tells me you're not gonna find that many black kids at that school. That is my assumption. I know I'm being presumptuous, but I'm just saying. And yes, social media and all of these things, he could DM whatever girl he wants, but I just think, and again, the tricky thing about this is getting into things like obligation and right versus wrong.
That's what I'm saying. He can do whatever he wants.
That's what I'm saying. It's not about right or wrong or whatever, and that's what I try to avoid. I try to stay away from, is it wrong for him to date who this and is and who that is, or whatever the case is. But the reality is, when you are at that point economically, you're going to have a higher likelihood of exercising your options. And so when you exercise your options, there's just a lesser chance of you dating a girl who's from the same race as you, black or otherwise. That's what options means. Options means there's just less likely of a chance of you doing one specific thing over the other. That's what having options is. So at that point, the question then becomes, okay, well, are you supposed to sort of socially engineer this kid in such a way that he is more likely than not, despite all of that, to make one particular decision? That's a question that you and I don't, whatever side of the fence you side on that's your prerogative. Me personally, I don't really get into all of that, but that's your choice to make. And if you believe if you believe you should do that, more power to you. And if you're a parent and you believe you should rear your child in such a way, more power to you. You raise your family the way you want. You just cannot criticize someone else for doing the same thing.
That's fair. And so, and everybody was, raised different. It's different things, man. I don't know what people's preferences are. They can have them. They're allowed to. I was just speaking on the trend that I noticed with athletes that I've seen personally. And it can be college football. I'm watching a random Arizona State game. They're doing a background story of whatever athlete, some defensive end. They show him and his girlfriend. It's a white girl. It's not a surprise. So whatever that is, because my thing is, it can't just be that, his socioeconomic, he's a college student at Arizona State. Or what is Arizona State? There's only white girls. I mean, whatever, man. Like I don't even get into me personally. I don't get into socioeconomic. What I think I get into is a status thing, and I think for certain athletes, for them, not for me, for them, it's a status symbol. And so for whatever that is, they go get them a white girl, a pretty white girl, and it's like, yep, I'm in it. I got it. To me personally, for athletes, I think it's a status thing because in the streets, regular stuff, if you try to get that pretty white girl, she's gonna look at you crazy. She's like, hey, because the white girl that deals with black guys don't look like the pretty white girls. The pretty white girls only deal with athletes and entertainers.
Correct. Yeah.
They don't even really deal with doctors.
They black, right? Yeah.
They deal with athletes and entertainers.
Yeah.
The other white girls that deal with black guys, and white people know what I'm talking about. They just have a certain look to them.
I know what you're talking about too.
Yeah. They just got a certain look to them. Like, oh, she deals with black guys.
I know what you do. Yeah.
And so with that look, and so whatever that, but that to me, those girls are on a status below those pretty white girls. So those are the ones that date the guys that's in the streets. And so those are the ones that the common everyday person, but to me, and like how you spoke to, that's a minority too. That's not even like everything whoop-de-whoop. And then we have trailer park woman from Walmart, and then, with 3 kids from the other guy that's looking crazy. And it's just like, oh, he asleep with that woman, but he ain't gonna deal with a black, those we see those two. So there's a plethora, and there's a different ways to do it from all scales. So my thing is when we're dealing with the average everyday person, the average black person, and speaking from an average black guy that was raised on the rhetoric of, hey, black families, black this, black that, hey, don't bring a white person on, all that stuff. Yeah, I got all of that. So by getting that, yeah, I was conditioned into a preference. I can still remember all the girls that I thought that were cute in first, second grade, daycare school. They were all colors. They were black, they were white, they were Spanish. I didn't know what was going on until they conditioned me to tell me, hey, black, 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 black.
Yeah.
So yeah, as I got older, it's like, all right, I now know what conditioning is. I now know how certain levels of rearing goes, and I can make my own decisions. And so as an adult, I do see things differently. I do see why people would do those things. But me personally, the gripe that I have, and I said I was going to bring it up later, but there's the cultural part. Mm-hmm. And not so much because what is black culture? We've talked about that too. Because what is it? Because if it's soul food, which is diabetes and death, all right, or if it's this gangster music that we listen to that people love so much and talk about drugs and shooting people, that's not my culture. All right. So I don't know what that stuff is, but that's not what I'm referring to when I say culture. So what I mean by culture is, hey man, these are my people. I jive with them. I like the way we dance, groove, do things. I like how we talk and laugh and be communal. Like, I love all of that stuff. And so when those things are not being appreciated the way that I feel like they should, then I feel like I think those would be issues within a relationship. And so what happens is there's somebody that comes from being black and believes that they're black, and they think that black is a thing that they have to be. Now they're dating a white person. And so now there's something that happens on TV, and now they got to be black. Their inner Patrice colors comes out. And then they're in a relationship with either a white woman or a white guy, and they don't feel that way. Hey, well, why did he have his hands in his pocket? What do you mean, why did he have his hands in his pocket? Yeah, I mean, why were the cops there in the first place? I mean, and then you can't say that, right? So now there's a rift because culturally there's a lack of understanding. And so if there's an understanding there, then maybe he won't come out his mouth like that, or maybe the black person doesn't come out their mouth like Patrice colors. So in either way, there has to be a uniform way of how they view society, not just view relationships, how they view society, how they view economics, how they view global situations as well. And because there's so many dynamics that play into what people call their own culture. And so it's not just things going on domestically or, within your own neighborhoods and stuff. There's things that's going on globally. Hey, my family's Irish. Hey, or my family's got, Ukraine. And it's like, hey, that's my people over there. You talking crazy about my people. Or you saying you don't care about Ukraine? That's my people, And so whenever you're dealing with, so people have to have global empathy. They have to have, interpersonal, all kinds. And it has to, honestly, due to the levels of socialization, honestly, in order to be an interracial relationship and a successful one, because again, men and women already have a hard enough time getting along. And now you want to add race onto it, which has layers of added, whether it's actual or artificial, there's layers of weight that comes with interracial relationships. And so if those interracial people are at a mature level, then they can communicate on the situations that would differ when it comes to culture, when it comes to things that happen in the news or media and stuff like that, politics and economics. So if they're mature parties, sauce, live your life, do your thing. But if you just tendering, swiping left and swiping right and all this other stuff here, and you just trying to hook up, but you're not mature when it comes to race relations, you're not mature when it comes to being, empathetic when it comes to other people's worldviews, then of course there's going to be clashes in the bedroom and clashes in other areas, because at this point, y'all, well, not in the bedroom, because the only reason why y'all together is the bedroom. So when there's those situations, of course I don't advocate, but I don't advocate that in same race relationships. Right. So it's my thing is, but when people do the interracial, it isn't, because I'm always hearing the grass is greener, and it's just not. So not only is it still a woman, it's a woman from another race, and then you have to deal with that race stuff on top of it. And so whether you like it or not, race comes up all the time in the news, media, TV. If you have kids, it's going to come up with them. And there's constantly going to be race conversations. And so if that's the thing, each party has to be comfortable. So I don't knock it, but I just feel like there needs to be mature parties involved,
Yeah, I don't disagree with much of that. In reference to the point that you made about like the college kid at Arizona State, like, and you said, well, what are the socioeconomics involved there? Because, he's a college kid. Well, I still think that when you're a star athlete at a major university, you still exist within a top tier. Like within that particular ecosystem, you might not be a millionaire, but there's only but so many of you to go around. And so I just think at the end of the day, when you've reached a certain level of economic or social prestige, you just simply have more options. And a lot of times we like to pick and parse and get deep into certain things, but I just think on an elementary level, with more options becomes more freedom of choice. And again, you brought up the point about the pretty white girl. She's not checking for the average everyday black guy on the street. Yeah, I agree. And that takes me back to my central point that this isn't even something that's happening in mass. What we're talking about is a very small subset of black men who comprise like 0.1% of the total population of black people, pro athletes and entertainers. Now, the question as to why they choose to exercise those options so frequently, I don't have an answer to that question. I'm not going to get into, because I never bought into the idea, for example, that, black women are more difficult, white women are more submissive. It's the person, it's the individual. I've met white women who are uncooperative, and I have met black women who are submissive. So it's based upon the individual. And these fallacies that black women are inherently not submissive and uncooperative, and non-black women are easier to deal with, those are just that. They're all fallacies. Where are you when you are meeting these people? What types of people are you dealing with? Okay, because if you are in the same type of environment all the time, and you're dealing with a certain type of person who exists within that environment, black, white, or otherwise, that's going to explain why you keep running into the same situations. So oftentimes, this boils down to the chooser understanding how to plant your seeds in different gardens. When you plant your seed in the same garden and you run into the same type of situation, at that point, it's a reflection of your decision to plant your seed in that garden. It's all based upon the individual. Right. So I don't like getting into this whole, I stay away from the whole black women do this. Because, like I said, I've met white females who are on their high horse, chip on their shoulder, the size of the golden nugget, and are on that modern feminism stuff and don't want to be controlled by any man. And then I've met black women who just want to be in a relationship and are willing to do what it takes to make it work. So a lot of that stuff to me is a fallacy, and I kind of just shove it aside. I just think at the end of the day, I don't know how to crack the Rubik's Cube of freedom of choice. All I can say is that it still represents the smallest percentage of our population. It's not really happening on this large scale the way that you think it is. And like, you know, the pretty white girl who only dates the athlete or I don't know why that is. Like, I don't know. You know, I mean, it is what it is, but like, you know, I don't have an answer. What was that?
I said I know exactly why they do that.
Oh, I mean, you know, I try to look at things positively. But
shit.
I mean, it just, you know, it is what it is. It's just at the end of the day, when a person has options, when a guy has options, you're just going to have to live with the ramifications of him choosing to exercise those options. I don't think that it's fair to, oh my God, I said it. I don't think it's reasonable to want black people to self-actualize and reach the top of the socioeconomic ladder. And then when they get there, you want to dictate how they can utilize all of the opportunities and the resources and the options available to them when they get there. Like, when we want them to get there. Okay, they're there. So now they've earned the right to reap the benefits of the hard work that they put in to get there. And one of those, you know, maybe you don't consider it a benefit. I live in a world where freedom of choice is a benefit. It's not a detriment. So, you know, if you've reached the point where you've gotten that high, that you can exercise options and you have freedom of choice, it's unreasonable to want to strip that away from people who have worked to earn the right to get to that position and try to dictate, okay, yeah, you've worked to get here and this is what we want, but now that you are here, here's what you can and cannot do. I don't necessarily know that that's a reasonable thing for us to ask. But again, it's easier for us to throw stones because we're only shooting shots at, you know, a few million people compared to 18, 20 million total people. We're only talking about a small fraction of the population. And so it's easy to pick them apart because we'll never know what it's like to be in their shoes. We won't know what it's like to live that reality. Most of us won't know what it's like to live that reality. And I think until you know what it's like to live that reality, you kind of got to dial back your criticism. I mean, you're going to have your opinions and whatnot, but at the end of the day, unless you can directly empathize, I feel like your place is to, at the very least, or maybe at the very most, say, hey, that isn't a choice that I would make, but that's his choice to make, and it is what it is, and just move on with your life.
I totally agree, bro. And just for the interracial discussion in general, just again, just me speaking on the whole cultural aspect of it all. If something happens for whatever reason, and that person feels a certain burn and desire for his people because of that, whether it's they want to build a community center or they want to do this or do that or whatever. If it's an interracial relationship, if that partner supports it, I don't give a damn. But if there's one of those situations where there might be a rift there, then I may ask that person to evaluate their relationship.
But do you think that happens though?
I mean, I've seen enough videos when Trump was getting elected and other things and when Trayvon Martin things would happen or a shooting would happen, and interracial relationships where a guy was, you know, a black woman, she was saying one thing, one case in particular, it was a black woman, she said something, and a white guy just went hammer. He just started going crazy on her that, you know, either something about Trump oriented or whatever. And it was just very heavily racially charged. And she was shocked. And the reason why she was shocked was this is the first time she was dating him when a black person got shot in the street. So that's when she had to find out that that's how he thought. So you have to know who you're sleeping with, so you're cool with it. So when you're dealing with somebody and you're sleeping with, having children with this person, then a black guy gets shot in the street. Then you hear how she feels. You got 2 kids with her. So where's the trajectory of the children? How are the children being raised? Are the children not going to care like your mama does?
Yeah.
So my thing is that it needs to be evaluated. That's my only gripe, because there are people out here that don't see none of that, and they're equally as pissed off when a human dies. You see what I'm saying? And that woman is cool. She's down with the cause. That guy is cool. He's down with it. I see them. They exist. And so for those situations, cool. But these status situations, the only reason why she's dealing with him because of his status, I don't know how deep that goes. That's why the pretty ones deal with guys like him, because of the status, not because of who he is and where he comes from. Because if somebody gets shot in the street, I wonder how they feel about it, really. So it's that dynamic that I weigh in. I weigh that in as an equation too. And if the person doesn't see that either, because I don't see it, then we move on. And if something happens and then it's like, hey, there was a crime, there was an atrocity that happened in the streets. An unarmed person got shot by the police. This is an atrocity. You don't feel no type of way about it or whatever, you know? And if there's a conflict there, or if you do feel some type of way, me and you chilling and rocking. So that's all I say. If it's rocking and rolling like that, then I have no issues. And the reason why I bring that up is because to me, that is the underlying thing that doesn't get talked about enough when dealing with interracial stuff, because each party wants to see over each other's whatever so much. And hey, I don't see your color, you don't see mine, blah, 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 blah. That's great. But if there is any type of hangups, baggages in either person's cultural background, then it will come to a head at some point. So it'd be nice to have those racial conversations, even though y'all don't see race, just so that it be an understanding of, hey, this is where I stand on that, and this is where you stand on that. So that way you don't step on each other's toes, or you can compromise to see on the same level, playing field. So
yeah, I think all of that is perfectly fine. I just think that is inherent in evaluating anyone that you're going to be in a relationship with. Okay. Like, you should not, man or woman, whatever, no one should get into a relationship with somebody unvetted. Like, you got to know where that person stands on stuff, whether they're the same race as you or not. So, like, your vetting process has to be, like, you shouldn't just not get into a situation with someone unvetted. And so that, I guess, would be a part of the vetting process. That, to me, is what that kind of sounds like is. And so I think the likelihood that would be something that props up in a situation like this, because it is, at least by all appearances, it looks to be superficial and status-based, then perhaps that is something that can rear its ugly head. But I deal in what is mostly, like, see, whenever I look at these things, I remove myself from the outlier, and I focus on what is happening in mass, what is happening in the majority of situations, in the majority of cases. I don't look at the pro athlete and the entertainer, because that is the outlier. I look at what is happening in mass. In mass, from what the stuff that you saw, the YouTube videos where there was some strife going on with that, I don't know how prevalent that is. You know what I'm saying? So I can't speak to that. I don't know how much. I don't know whether that's the majority of cases or not. But I mainly say that again.
No, I wouldn't say it's the majority, but it happens, though.
I agree. It 100% happens. And so that's why I say, like, whether you're someone who is, because, like, I am a champion for exercising options. That doesn't mean that I prefer one type of woman over the other. It just means that if I have the ability to exercise options, I'm going to do that. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to vet whoever it is that I might be considering for that. Because I'll be damned if I'm going to get into a relationship with anybody and we ain't vetted, and she's not vetted, whether she's I don't care what race or ethnicity she is. So it just becomes incumbent upon you to make sure that you're not just jumping into situations with somebody and you don't know what they're about. Like, you should know what a person is about. But I don't know, just moreover, the status thing, that is what it is. Is that something that is potentially an issue? Perhaps. I just think at the end of the day, I choose to not get worked up about it because, again, it's not the majority of cases. It really isn't. And like most of these interracial relationships that do take place in the streets are between people where there is some level of relatability present because they do, for the most part, live the same socioeconomic reality. So, like, for example, you can have a white chick who's from the trailer park dating a black dude who's from the hood. Police be in the trailer parks all day looking to mess up some trailer park people, right? So, like, it's an economic issue. It's not really purely about race. It just so happens that economics does sort of reflect racial constitution because of the history of this country and the way that economic statuses amongst races are defined. But it really is an economic issue. And so you can have two people, one lady from the trailer park, one dude from the hood, and there's a relatability there, and they down for the cause and they get it because they've experienced certain commonalities. And that's not a racial observation, that's an economic observation. So I think at the end of the day, people just kind of have to try and look at things logically and not so hysterically. And again, like, not get so worked up and bent out of shape about what is not the majority of cases. Like, that's not the norm. Those are not the masses. Like I said, for the most part, in 2022, people still, by and large, date within race and community. They do. Black men still mostly en masse date black women, and these other races of women, whether they're white, Latino, Asian, or whatever, there is a tier, there's a hierarchy. Men from their own community are first, and then it just goes down the line. So in mass, this is not happening as much as people might think. So from that standpoint, I just don't know that there's something to get freaked out about, especially when you're dealing with one kid whose dad is a billionaire and he goes to a high school that costs $40,000 a year. I just don't know what you expect the kid to do. Honestly, I don't know what you expect the kid to do. He lives a reality that is incomprehensible to me. Yeah, and so whether you think that it's okay for him to date white girls or not, or the cultural differences, whatever the case may be, the fact of the matter is he has a plethora of options available to him. So it should come as no shock to anyone if he chooses to exercise them.
But, and again, so this kid, I mean, who knows? I mean, he ain't gonna marry this girl, and if he does, who cares? But he's not.
That's what I'm saying. We don't even know the nature of the relationship. We just know they went to prom together.
Exactly. So I mean, I'm not I don't care. He's 18. So yeah, he's allowed to have fun. And if this is a fun night for him, then let him ball out. Like, who cares about the cultural differences there? You're not laying up with the person every day. Like, this is not your wife. Then those concerns were about, relationships.
Yeah.
But if y'all just splacking off and this is just some whatever, some hookup thing, or a friend with benefits, live your life, and I don't have any issues, because why should race relations come up there? if y'all just smash buddies, or if y'all just date or whatever, nothing serious, So I don't have issues with that type of stuff. My thing is, for the long haul, just for the mental stability of anybody that's doing that, for that person, the two parties involved, and the children. And that's basically why I look at it. It's the more the family structure and how things will go in the long run. But when it comes to dating, swipe left, swipe right, I don't care. And Arabic, Mexican, anything, like, who cares? So me personally, like, I don't care. I said all that stuff. And if it's like a dating hookup thing, like, I don't have preferences there, because who cares? Oh, you'll smash somebody that's racist? Yes. Yeah, I would. Yes, I would. No, I ain't gonna do that. What's that boy name? Manio. Manio, the rapper?
Mano,
yeah, Mano. Manio. You need to call his name Manio. Maniac. You saw the video where he said that when he's dealing with white women, he like for them to whip him and call him N-word.
That's mental. Those are mental health issues. Yeah, that those that he has mental health issues that he needs to.
That's right up the alley, bro. Ain't that how I go?
He has mental health issues that need to be worked out. That is self-hate. Now that's when you get into the levels of self-hate. You know what I'm saying? That I don't know what to say. I would never think. I know that's a weird self-hating fetish.
Come on, bro. That's a little role play, bro. You ain't gonna do that. You did it like one time.
There's other forms of role play that I'll get into before I get into that. That is
no, bro. You get to smash. You get to smash her afterwards. She disrespected you. You get to smash her afterwards.
Oh well, that's for Mano to do. That's Mano can have all of that. I'm going to get with the non-black women who just want to be with me because they think I'm a cool black guy and don't need me to Django unchain them. I'm not really with all of that. I don't know what that is. That to me, that's the same kind of. To me, those are the same things as like white females who just have, they don't really take black men seriously, but they will like they'll have sex with them because they have this black fetish for being dominated by a big, strong Mr. Black man.
Yeah, that stuff too. You're not down for that.
Hey man, listen. To each their own.
Damn, Jay.
Well, I don't know. I might be down for the second one, but no, not the first one.
Okay, the second one, because she's just down for the slaughter, and so it's just like.
Yeah, but you know me, man. You know me, bro. I'm a principled individual. So if I know that you don't even value me as a person, and you just want me to satisfy this this hunger that you have, I might still end up passing. I might still end up passing.
You're a good man.
But that's me. Like I'm principled. Like you don't got to do it the way I do it. I know that I'm principled. So if I even remotely believe that you're just using me for some purpose to that end, I'm probably not going to be okay with it. But the next guy can do it. It is what it is.
One last question, bro. I'm putting you on the spot right now. One last question, bro. Okay. So some woman, she's really into your muscles, bro. She's just all into your muscles. She really, you could tell she's just here for the muscle game. I mean, basically she don't like you either. You're not down for that? It's the same thing for the other girl. She just wants the Mandingo thing.
No, it's not, because she would get with a white guy who has muscles, following that logic.
I hear that. I hear that. Whatever.
I'm just saying, from that standpoint, I wouldn't mind it because it's not dependent upon like my race or anything that I would be personally uncomfortable with. Because if she has a muscle fetish, she'll get with a white guy who has muscles just as soon as she'll get with a black guy who has muscles. So I will take that. Yeah, because I will. I'll take that.
Because she's non-biased.
Yeah, she's non-discriminatory in her fetishes.
Yeah, well,
she's just non-discriminatory. That's like I used to date. Okay, this might be inappropriate, but whatever I'm gonna say. So there used to be this dude who I hooped with. He was a black guy back when I was in college. His name was No name. Okay. No. Okay. So we used to hoop together. And he had this thing, and he was serious. His thing was, before I get married, my plan is to have sex with 460 white women so that I can have sex with one white woman for every year of slavery. Or something like that, or slavery or white supremacy or something like that. And to me, that's the same. To me, that's the opposite side of the same coin. It's just like, bro, listen, you got a lot of hatred in your heart that you need a therapist for. You need therapy because no one disrespected you or enslaved you or treated you like this for you to be doing these girls out here like that. So you need therapy, sir. And he really felt that way. So he was on that. I'm not really on that kind of stuff.
No, that's fair. That looking at it like that angle, like, it's some real revenge stuff or some weird.
Yeah, it's just like who are you exactly revenge on? What did they do to you?
some weird slave stuff going on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I'm good. Nah, hey, you brought that around because then I was thinking about. I was like, when I said it, I was like, man, hey, shit. But nah, you bring that angle in there. It's like, where's my self dignity?
Yeah.
Where's
Yeah,
that?
I'm just too principled for it, man. Personally, I'm just too principled for it.
That's fair.
But that's just how I feel about it, man. But we're not gonna go ahead and we don't want to let this video go too long. But yeah, to the whole Bronny stuff, man. Like freedom of choice, preferences, whatever the case may be, it is what it is. I guess my central point with this whole thing and what frustrates me about it is people get so hysterical because they want to point the finger at the top 1%. And, in mass, what's really going on in the streets is what you want to happen, which is, black is still with black for the most part. So, I just think that, stop getting so worked up about this stuff. It is what it is. Like, at a certain point, we're going to have to reckon with the ultimate end goal, which what do all black people want for each other, right? What black people want as the ultimate end goal is we want to remove ourselves from oppressive environments. We want to remove ourselves from being disenfranchised, right? What does that mean? That means that we will have the economic wherewithal to be able to make that happen. And when you put yourself in those different types of environments, you open yourself up to the possibility of different choices. So we're going to have to we're going to have to decide how okay with that we are, because it's going to happen, because either that happens or we continue to remain, disproportionately disenfranchised. So, something has to give, right? So I just kind of feel like we're going to have to reckon with that. And so far it's been easy for us to not reckon with it because statistically so many of us are still living in that middle to lower class disenfranchised tier that we don't actually have to face that kind of reality. And so we can just sit there and point the finger at the rich and the wealthy amongst us who do have the ability to exercise those options. And so, it is what it is, man. But
yeah,
whether this is a thing, whether this is a phase for Bronny or not, my thing personally, I don't know whether this is a phase for him or not, or whether he just so happens to be a kid who is into dating different types of women. So be it. It is what it is, man. Like, people are gonna exercise options, and that's just it, man. Like,
yeah, live your life, Bronny. Live your life, bro. Keep balling, bro. Like, hey, man, like life is abundant for this young man. So even if his NBA trajectory and stuff don't pan out, man, the kid seems pretty cool. All of LeBron's kids seem chill to me. So yeah, man, keep doing your thing, bro. Don't listen to the people that's with the scrutiny and the goofy stuff. I'm sure he's not, but hey, man, teach his own. Have fun, bro. Ball out. The world's your oyster. Very young and got everything in front of you. So do your thing, man. That's what I got. Do your thing.
Yeah. Choice is choice, bro. Choice is choice. But that'll do it for this video, man. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. Really appreciate the support. Obviously, watching this video on the YouTube channel, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button. Share the video wherever you're seeing it. If you're watching this video on the Facebook page, please like the page. Also hit the share button there. Comment wherever you're seeing the video. We certainly appreciate it. Want to know what everybody thinks. Try to keep it civil. Criticize ideas, not people. Don't be an asshole. Try not to be an asshole. And your opinion is not the only one that exists. But otherwise, definitely catch the Conscious Approach on Instagram at Conapproach, CONAPPROACH. You can also find me on Instagram at JVWins, JVWINS. I'm on every other social network, JVWins, JVWINS. So definitely reach out. Appreciate you watching the video. And as always, appreciate you supporting logical content.
Yep. And the name is Dogon SS. And you can find me on Instagrams at Dogon_SS and on YouTube at Dogon SS, or on any other social media platform, all right, at Dogon_SS or just Dogon SS. All right. So it just depends, man. Just look me up. I'm there. All right. But yeah, man, stay calm, stay chill, keep it player. All right. And yeah, man, don't be too high, too low. And Don't let anybody get you off your pivot, bro. So stay chill, man. And just like the Bronny example today, man, the world can come at you for life decisions that you make, but just remember, man, you're the only one that sleep at night with yourself. You're the one with those thoughts. To hell with the world. Do you live your life and enjoy? So
Yeah. On that note, man, we're gonna go ahead and sign off. Another video in the books. We'll catch y'all next time. Peace.
Peace. Skirt.